Good afternoon. On the behalf of the Board of Education, I call to order our October work session. Today is Tuesday, October 8th. Special welcome to those here in attendance this afternoon, those watching online, ABSS staff, Commissioner Pam Thompson, and our friends from the media. Board members, before I get started with the meeting, I do have two quick things. On behalf of the board, I would like to extend our thoughts and prayers to Dr. Fleming. He lost his mother this weekend, so we certainly will keep you lifted up and you and your family in the days ahead. Also, continued prayers for Western North Carolina. Many of our schools are stepping up and leading efforts for our neighbors in Western North Carolina. I know we're working with Emily Lynn about organizing a district-wide effort as well. So excited about those details coming forward. And then real quick, if I can have a moment of privilege, I am sporting my Graham volleyball t-shirt that was gifted to me last week at their annual Pink Out game. So I'm sending love to Graham High School, to Miss Feasley, Coach McGinnis, Mr. Brown, and the girls who let me sit on their team bench, and it was really entertaining. But great time. That was not the only one. They honored lots of survivors and supporters and caregivers. So I'm sporting my t-shirt like I promised and just wanted to shout out to them with some love. Okay, back to business. Board members, you've had an opportunity to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to accept it at this time?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Dr. Parker, thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I forgot to mention Mr. Bowden isn't able to be with us today as well. At this time, we are going to talk about the voting delegates for the North Carolina School Board Conference. Our annual conference each year is in Greensboro. The meeting is November the 18th at 4 p.m., and we can select up to 4 board members to be voting delegates at that meeting. Obviously, it does require you to attend that meeting in person on November the 18th. Is there anyone interested? We can select up to 4 members. Yes, sir, it's a Monday.
You have to register them as well. You have to register for the conference.
Yeah, we would register you for the conference, the annual conference. I believe it's Karen, is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
It is a Monday, Tuesday.
And then you would be a voting delegate on behalf of our board. We have until November the 8th to turn the names in. We wanted to go ahead and have this conversation to see if there's interest. So we can go ahead.
Can I get back to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I might be interested also, but I just need to check
Okay.
work obligations and everything too.
So what I would do is go ahead, if you've got 4 interested, go ahead and put them so we can,
Okay.
because we'll have to register you, I think, before that deadline.
Okay.
We just don't have to turn that in until then.
I can go.
Okay. So Dan is for sure. Seneca and Chuck. So Chuck was in. So Chuck and Seneca will let me know. And then Donna, Charles, do either of y'all have interest as well?
No, I do not. Not this
Okay.
year. Thank you.
Yes, I can if need
Okay.
be.
All right. Sounds good.
And you will have to approve, in order for us to submit that, you'll have to approve, or do you want to wait till the next meeting?
That is totally up to the pleasure of the board. Do y'all want to wait until we've got 4 confirmed?
Yeah.
Okay. So
That'd
if
be good.
Chuck and Seneca can let us know, and then we've got Donna and Dan. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. And I will turn the floor over to Dr. Fleming at this time for his 90-day entry plan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and members of the board. You have in front of you a printed copy. You also have a digital one as well of the updated, and this is updated as of this past Friday. So I've actually done a couple things since then, so that's a good thing. But as you flip through here, you will notice this is primarily, or most of the items are in progress. I still have a couple more school board members to wrangle up, but and that will be completed. But you can see the meetings I've had with the town managers, police chiefs, county commissioners. We have yet to start goal planning, but we will do that within the next few weeks. Meeting with leadership staff within the school buildings, we have started that. I definitely would not say we are completed on that yet. Stakeholder groups, I don't know that I could count on one hand, two hands, three hands, how many ever, but we've had several meetings with individuals within the business community, industry community, faith-based community, and some nonprofits, and so that's still in progress. Some of these, it will be hard to determine if I've completed it, because I doubt anything will be 100% as far as who I'm meeting with, but I would like a good...
I found this on the web.
Oh, I would like a good representation, so we'll keep working on those. Meeting with our higher education partners. I've had a few meetings already with Dr. Engel at Alamance Community College. I've met with Dr. Book for about an hour in her office. And so we'll have some more opportunities to meet with folks. One item that is completed is performance data review. Most of this was done through the DPI site. Again, this is one of those that's hard to say I completely completed it because I will find more information to dig through. But as far as performance data and what's available through the State Department and all, I have been through that. One trend I noticed is obviously we're reducing low-performing schools, but we still have to work on early reading in math, and we will dig a little further into that. Review each school improvement plan. That is not a simple task. I have started going through what we've worked on now, but that will be a while probably before that is finished. Meeting with principals and going to every school. I believe I now have 4 schools or 5 schools left to go. That would have been completed at the end of last week, but sometimes life gets in the way. So that'll be completed within the next week or so. I haven't started to meet with our directors, instructional directors, our operations directors, student service directors. I haven't met individually. I've met them in the hall and in schools, but no formal meetings there. I do have meetings coming up with the Alamance Burlington Association of Educators and one-on-one meetings with all of our administrators. Those are coming up. We're going to work on one thing I have not done, and this is something that will include our instructional folks too, but in particular our CTE people, but is working on our pathways for students, as I always say, enlisted, employed, or enrolled. Certainly already working on operations and resource allocations, waiting for Mr. Messer really to get in here as our new CFO. We'll dig heavy into it, which we've already dug heavy into, but I'm sure we will go even further. So that will be good. And I think then we'll be able to make some staffing decisions, organizational chart decisions, and really kind of defining what we want ABSS to look like, particularly on the leadership side of things and leadership structure. Really have not dug a whole lot into working with Ms. Johnson and others within her department on literacy and math, but we will want to do that. Evaluation of reading programs and all is listed under there as the last instructional item. On the third objective 3, resources and stewardship, we've started some items there, particularly with the budget and reviewing the expenditures of the district. Again, that's another item that once Mr. Messer gets here at the end of the month, we'll be able to get a little farther into. We haven't done a whole lot on technology yet. We haven't had a budget workshop with you guys or with the commissioners. That's probably something we would start after the election, but certainly at the beginning of the budget planning cycle, once we get a budget calendar and all that. Same thing again with the hiring processes, whole child services, all of that are items. Many of those are items that it's just we'll eventually get to. There's a long list of things to work on. We have scheduled a student advisory council. 3F focuses a lot on talking to students. 3G, I feel like we've completed because we've had the OSC meetings. I've met individually with the county manager a handful of times, county finance officer, and Tony Messer. So that's another completed item. And then finally, an item we really have not dug into is meeting individually, again, with Mr. Hooks staff as far as maintenance, child nutrition, transportation, and other auxiliary areas. And we will have those meetings started soon. So when you look at everything, I have not started 10 items, that's 43%. 11 items, that's 48%, are in progress, and 9% are completed. So we're also trying to track where we're at on this. So I think all things considered, we're trying to move as quickly as possible, but also I want to make sure that we're doing everything right, and we're trying to look and look under every rock as much as possible. So, Madam Chair, that is my update on my 90-day plan as of this past Friday, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Fleming. Thank you for sharing that in detail. Questions from board members?
No.
Comments?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I know, thank you, by the way, for you're working hard, and I'm getting positive comments from several of the schools on your visits, and thank you for what you're doing. I noticed, I didn't go to, but I watched both of the debates. I call it forums at the Paramount, and I know Chairman Page of the County Commissioners was very commendable in terms of the folks that we've hired, and also that gentleman sitting right across from you there, Dr. Fleming. He was very commendable on the work he's doing. So he's happy, pleased, and that's a good thing when you're starting into a budget year to have the folks that feed us, in terms of a lot of our finances. So thank you, and Mr. Hook, thank you for the job you're doing. They are happy and pleased with you. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Mr. Rogers?
Similar to Mr. Engel, thank you for the work that you've been putting in with meeting with folks, from the folks that I know that's done told me about meeting with you. They've enjoyed meeting you and getting to talk with you and stuff. I even talked to my buddy Chief Baker, who's with the Graham Chief, and she had told me that she had talked to you. She was like, I hope I didn't scare off your new person by telling them so much. She was like, you know how I do, Seneca. I'll start chiming in a lot of stuff when we start talking about the kids. But so that was good. And then it was good too to see in your plan the pieces about the teacher advisory committees and the student advisory committees, because I think those are groups that needs to be heard and continuously need a platform and a space for their voices to be heard. And especially because, we always talk about that at the front of everything we do is our students. So in allowing for them to have an opportunity to speak up for themselves and advocate for themselves is very important. And I just hope when those groups are, formed and done, we're not just pulling in. Because, it's great, those honor roll students, they're great. But also some of those students who might be that just C student who's, they're getting through, but they might have a different look on what school looks like for them, too, to have them a space also in there, too. And just those students who, every day they're coming here and they're going to make it and they're determined to make it, but it might not be as easy as for some of the others. So getting their voices heard too. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Comments or questions from this end?
You're all right.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrook.
So one
Dr.
question.
Parker?
I know that there'll be a bigger look at, structure as far as central office and that kind of thing. I wasn't sure where that was reflected. And one thing that I always like to see is an updated org chart. And I think usually a great job is done with that, and was just going to ask for that after you've taken a look at how, who's where and what activities different folks are going to be doing going forward.
Yeah, and I will point out, if you look at 2G, that's the Operation Support Resource Allocations for low-performing schools. That's a piece of it. But the biggest part would be, and I have there is another one that deals with organization. I'm going to find it here. May have been 2C. I do have an organizational one on here somewhere. Now it's a matter of me finding where it's at. Or did I put it? I want to see it was under resources. It must have been that 2C. I was thinking 2G, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2G. There was one I had on.
What does it say that you're looking for?
Oh, it was here it is. It's 2C and 2G. And I kind of combined all those or took those into those two. One is more school-based, and then 2G is more of a central office view as well. And it seems like maybe even in 3A, but I did have on my notes somewhere about organizational charts. I'll have to go back and look. It may even been 3C, but that is a part of it, is looking at the instructional organization from a cabinet level as well as directors.
Very good. And I know this is more front of mind for you with the new CFO. Can you remind me the start date as far as when we're expecting the new CFO to start? Is that?
October 24th.
Thank you.
So I'll just echo everybody else on the board.
2G right there.
Yep.
Staffing. It's 2G.
Anything else, Dr. Parker?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. So just to echo everybody else on the board, we appreciate the work.
Thank you.
I know you've had a lot on your plate the past week or two, and we really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. No,
At this time, I will invite Ms. Ravonda Johnson, our Chief Academic Officer, to the podium for curriculum.
So good afternoon, Ms. Sandy Ellington Graves, Board of Education, Dr. Fleming. This afternoon, I am bringing to you the EDIA contract. We had federal dollars that need to be encumbered and used that were set aside to work with our specific subgroups. And as I shared with you when I gave you our state of the school, we have some subgroups that we doubled in from last year's results. For example, our black subgroup doubled in the amount of kids that we were not serving, who we should be serving. Our economically disadvantaged subgroup wasn't. EDIA is an artificial intelligent platform that will work with kids where they are and help close those skill gaps. Teachers are able to use this platform to be able to put kids where they need to be at their level, and it gives immediate feedback. It allows the kids to work through the math problems, but it'll give kids feedback and tell them what step that they got it wrong at and where it needs to be. And it's aligned with our North Carolina standards. So this money would be used, come from the federal dollars. It's $130,000, and it would be for our grades 7 through 12 students. Right now, we do have our Reveal platform for our students who are in grades K through 6, but we don't have anything to use during our intervention time for grades 7 through 12. And so we would use our federal dollars for this particular platform to use during our intervention period for these kids. So we're asking for your permission to be able to use this for our young people in order to close those skill gaps.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Questions, comments?
All right, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
First of all, will there be any kind of professional development for the teachers?
Yes,
What would
we
that
actually have on October the 28th, we have a district mandated day, and this company is going to come out and show the teachers how to use it, and then there's actually going to be a time for them to work and go ahead and plan based on where the kids are in their levels, so that there will be the company people there to help set that up, as well as our own people to be able to help the teachers as well, so that they can group the kids how they need to be grouped before we start.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is, how did you learn of this program? Is it something that's used statewide or?
It's used nationally, actually, statewide and nationally, and we had heard about it, word of mouth from some of the counties that are nearby, from people who have used it. And so it was brought back to us by some principals, and so we asked them to come in. Dr. Haley and myself asked them to come in and do a demonstration for us. And then when Dr. Dixon told me that we needed to be able to encumber these funds, I'll be honest with you, I told the company, this is all I have to spend. I don't have a dime more. And they actually gave us a break because they knew where we were financially. So they said they could make it work with this. So.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, so the question I usually ask is, how does this plug in as far as students logging into it? You know, could I see it through my Canvas Observer account as a parent? Or how do students kind of get to it as far as the platform?
We would work with our technology department to see if it could go through our Clever portal to be able to come for the kids to log into that part. But once we get approval from you guys, that's when we would be able to work with them to see if we could go through that part so that you can see it. And then principals and teachers would be able to get reports of where their kids are so that we can make sure we see if it's actually doing what it says it would do.
Got it. And that was going to be my second question. So, you know, again, so I'm a parent and I'm looking at this. Do I get a report that says, okay, with this standard, my student's doing well, with this one, it needs more practice kind of thing?
Yes, and that's what we want, because if it's not closing those skill gaps and it's not doing what they told us it would do, which is the whole reason we want them on it, because if it's closing those skill gaps, then we should see our proficiency and our growth rise in these tested areas. And it doesn't just align with like Math 1, Math 2, or Math 3, but it'll even close those gaps in like that our AP Calculus kids are missing. So it even does the higher level math where our kids are struggling with those skills.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I've got two questions. I may have missed this. Is this an additional addition to the budget, or this is kind of in your budget and you're using these funds within your budget? And also the feedback part of the schools, that are they seeing the closing of the gaps, or is this something that's so new that we don't know?
So the money is actually this money is coming from it's called the Targeted Assistance Grant that was come through the federal department, and it needed to be used for targeted assistance for subgroups. So it wasn't used, and we needed to encumber that. So that's where the money come from. So it's federal dollars, so it wasn't a local budget or anything that's coming. We're not using money that was allocated for something else in the district. As far as the feedback is concerned, it's new to us, but grades 7 through 12 didn't have anything for intervention period at this time. We've got things that teachers were pulling to use. Some teachers use Khan Academy. It's not bad to use those things, but it wasn't something as targeted as this that actually gave good feedback. Some people use Delta Math. Some people use IXL. They're not horrible things to use, but this gives more immediate feedback and actually tells the kids where you didn't do something right so that you won't make that same mistake. And even though I know AI gets a lot, AI is artificial intelligence, even though I know it gets a bad rep, where the first thing people think of is, oh, it helps people cheat. As a teacher or an instructor in college, if you're given the right assignment, a kid can't cheat using AI. If you give a specific question that would require more thought, something more personal to be answered with, AI can't cheat on that. I use AI to make a grocery list. I think it's wonderful. I use AI to make a what we need to eat for the week. It's great because I don't have to think. So there's great usage for artificial intelligence. I think we automatically go to the negative side as humans But there's a lot of things that we're doing as educators to see the positive in it. And we just have to keep educating each other better. And this is one of the ways that's a positive. It's allowing teachers to do problems with math, and you've got a computer that's saying to a kid on step 2, this is what you did wrong. This is how you need to correct that. And then it has the kid go back and make that correction and start over from there to see if they can get the right answer. And if you're a teacher with 28 kids in your class, that kid is getting immediate help, but you as a teacher then get a report that says, okay, I probably need to group these 5 kids together and let's go over this together and make sure I know they understand that. So for me, that really helps a teacher.
I was going to ask this, but I think you stated it. So this would be held on daily during their intervention time?
Yes.
So intervention's not necessarily, or is it, math teachers per se? So is
It can be done. Interventions can be done during the math block. We see it. Tier 2 interventions, a lot of times teachers will do it right there in the middle of class. But we also at the high school level have an intervention period. We see, Western High does a really good job of pulling kids who need that additional intervention. They've got teachers who pull kids in during Success Academy, and they're really working with them on the skills that they need. So this will allow them another tool to really dig deep with those kids.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, and this kind of goes along with what Mr. Marsh, part of his question, is there any statistical information from other schools where this has been going on that shows the improvements?
There is. I could pull my laptop. I know there was. I was looking at some of that before I come over here. There was a school in Texas. Texas still has Algebra 1. There was a district in Texas who saw a 14% increase in their Algebra 1. It might have been Mooresville in North Carolina. In their Math 1, saw a 12% increase. So I can add some of those. It's on their website, but I can put some of that in this week's superintendent updates. But there were some statistical improvements because I was looking at it because I was like, that's pretty good. With that piece of it. So I'm excited. We're going to train the staff to make sure they know how to use it. I think, a lot of times teachers want things that are going to help them not add just extra work to them. And I think this is one of those things where it's going to allow them the time they need individually with students, without the additional work so that they can really dig down into what the kid really needs. And for me, that's what we need because that's how we're going to continue to move the achievement of these kids. So I'm excited about it. And hopefully we'll see even more gains.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Dr. Parker.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
So I know this wasn't on the agenda, but before I get to my field trips, this week is National Coaches Week in the United States. So you will see this beautiful picture up here of all of our coaches in Alamett's Burlington school system. And it says a coach will impact more people in 1 year than the average person will in an entire lifetime. So first, I want to thank you because when I first came back from the Midwest 5 years ago, these fine people in this picture were making the same salary that I was making 25 years ago when I was coaching. And I can't believe time stood still while I was gone. But finally, time woke up and you guys gave them a raise, so thank you for that. But these people do so much more than what they're getting paid for. They stay after when families can't pick them up. They're there on the weekends. Their mom sometimes, their dad sometimes, their nurse, their counselor, their everything. they're the person that listens, they're the person that encourages, they're the person that says, get your homework done, get to class on time, you're a role model. We have 486 coaches in ABSS. And for some of our students, if it wasn't for a coach, they may give up on school. Out of the 486 coaches, we have 3,145 combined years of experience across all sports and levels. That's a lot of years of experience and a lot of great years. Our longest coaching experience is Coach Love. Coach Love is at Cummings High School, and Coach Love was there when I was a coach. He actually coached my son. My son did track, and he's a great man. Coach Love has approximately 60 years of coaching under his belt. He's in his mid-70s, and I think about my dad right now and what shape he's in, and then look at Coach Love, and I'm thinking, wow, Coach Love is still coaching and making a difference in the life of kids. And then our second longest coach, who's no stranger to the platform in front of you, is Coach Davis. Coach Davis he is also at Cummings. He has coached so many people in Burlington, and so many people in Burlington talk about Coach Davis. He has 2 great athlete children himself. He has approximately 55 years of coaching. Seneca, I don't know if he coached you. He did. So, those are our 2 longest coaches that we have in ABSS right now. So I felt that it didn't fall on the nighttime meeting, but I felt that since it did fall on the daytime meeting, we needed to take a few minutes to thank and recognize all of our ABSS coaches. So thank you, coaches. If you're listening, if you're not, maybe you'll go back and watch and you'll listen that how appreciative we are of the time and the work you do for our young people. So thank you.
Is this somewhere, Ravonda, that we can share?
We can do that. Yeah. I'll figure out how to do it. So thank you, coaches.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Johnson. And on behalf of the board, thank you to 486 coaches, many of who are teachers as well.
They are.
Thank you for what you do for our student athletes.
Yes. And those that aren't teachers, some of them are working full-time jobs and they come in tired and they still want to make a difference in the life of a young person. And I kudo that because that's a big calling. So I have 2 field trips that I just want to bring for information items for you today, and then they'll be on the consent agenda at the nighttime meeting at the end of the month. The first one is for AO Elementary. They would like for you to consider for them to go to Washington, D.C. The cost per child would be $355. They'll be doing a fundraiser, and no kid will be denied due to financial. They're going to visit sites like the Arlington Cemetery, Jefferson Memorial, World War II Memorial, Martin Luther King National Memorial. They're excited about their trip. This trip will be in April. And then the Western Elements High School dance team would like to go to the National Dance Alliance competition that takes place in February in Orlando, Florida. Cost of the trip is $800 per dancer. I think there's 15 dancers. Nobody will be denied the right for the trip. The dance boosters are actually raising money to pay for each young lady on the dance team so that they can attend. And they will be competing against dancers across the United States at this dance competition. So these are just information items so that you'll be thinking about that for the consent agenda the night of the board meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Any questions or comments about either of the field trips? You'll see those again on the October 28th meeting for a vote.
And then in front of you, I did give you flyers. Monday night, we have our first Family University of the evening, or of the year. We're super excited. We will be at Cummings again. They have the best parking for us. Like I said, we're super excited. We had a great high school options fair this past Saturday. We stayed busy from 10 until 9 until way after 12. With so many people, we passed out a ton of these flyers, just reminding folks that, you know, they could come and learn so much of how to support their young people. We have things for elementary parents, middle school parents, and high school parents. We've also partnered with the community about financial literacy. So we have a bank that's partnered up with a teacher, and they're going to talk about how to be financially stable in your own life, and then how to make sure your child is financially stable. So I'm pretty excited about having that for parents. So maybe, you know, they just need something for themselves. Remember, we do have childcare for pre-K through 5th grade, and we are serving dinner for families between 5:30 and 6. So hopefully everybody will come out Monday night. It's a great event. Plus, it's just a way to support families so that they can better support their kids at home. We've got some great sessions. The staff out in the buildings work hard just to make sure parents can walk away being able to help their child at home. And we hopefully will look forward to seeing you guys as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. At this time, I will turn the podium over to Dr. Christy Davis, Chief Student Services Officer.
So good afternoon, Madam Chair, Board, and Dr. Fleming. I bring to you today for first read our policy on school safety. This was the North Carolina School Board's revised this policy earlier this summer, and so we're bringing it to you today for a first read. Some of the changes do include establishing threat assessment teams, and our schools have done that. It includes training, which our schools have been trained at the last principals meeting. The assessment of threats to determine whether or not it really actually poses a threat to the student or others. Information sharing, that is with parents, and then, of course, the protocols that we use. So those were the changes that are noted in red. Do you have any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah,
Yes, Mr. Rogers?
no, go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Westbrook?
I was going to say, you stated the principals had been trained, but what about the other members of the team?
So the schools, the student support staff members, they were trained as well, in a different meeting, but they were trained as well.
Okay, so everybody who has to have a part in this,
Yes.
on this team have been
Every
trained.
member that's selected as a member of the team. And of course, that had to be changed because we established those teams last spring. So of course, we've had to roll some new people on based on lost staff. So we've trained the new individuals.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, Ms. Westbrook took my question. I guess we were thinking the same on that. But then also just, I guess maybe a little bit outside of this, but still dealing with the school safety piece, is the possibility, and this might be for you, Dr. Fleming, on the possibility of almost like a district school safety task force or something. I know it's been something that's been brought up in the past, and looking at this and thinking about like them school level threat assessment teams and different things, maybe something that's like a district level type of thing that takes in a little bit of district leadership and then possibly some folks from these threat assessment teams, and partnership with law enforcement and maybe students even into something like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to, one of the recommendations I'll be coming with soon are a couple different advisory committees, task force, however you'd like to word it, but focusing, one would be on safety and security. And so while it wouldn't necessarily be a threat assessment team like the school level, it would look at all of our buildings kind of as a whole of what safety improvements need to be done. That would include law enforcement. It would include our operations staff. It would include, really anyone having to deal, probably some school administrators as well, from the building level. But looking at a whole of what needs to be done within the district. Some of that will tie in to looking at facility needs as well, because a lot of your physical security items really fall under capital: cameras, door locks, security systems, all that. So I think there's a good tie-in there. The threat assessment team, I know, has to do specifically with moving those kids and doing, if there has to be a reunification or there is some type of a tabletop exercise that needs to be done. And some of that would be discussed at the district level as well, but I definitely could see a tie-in between the two.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Dr. Parker?
So last year, prior to me being on the board, they'd funded a security assessment for the district, and we were briefed on the results of that. How do you anticipate that interacting with the threat assessment teams at the individual schools, as far as the information being shared? Or I didn't know if that may be implemented and not in the policy, but maybe just thoughts.
That's definitely not a part of this policy, so that would be separate. So we can look to see if there is any overlap, and if so, how we can share that information out if needed.
Just as far as repeating effort and that kind of thing, or checking if something's still a problem. So,
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Hey, sorry, Chrissy. The statement that's in here, again, about the training, but that said it must be provided annually for all school system stakeholders, and it said including staff, students, parents, volunteers, et cetera. How would you do that in terms of the people who are not in the school day to day?
So ultimately, the ones on the teams are the ones that we focused our training on, and of course, the information is shared with the students if they see a threat or if they want to report a threat to themselves or somebody else. There's different systems for high schools and secondary. They have Say Something, and then for elementary, they report that information to a trusted adult. But for the staff members, or if there's like a parent that walks in or a visitor, there's posters in the schools where that information is housed, where they know who to report that information to.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Davis? Thank you. And this time, I will welcome Greg Cook, our Chief Operations Officer, to the podium.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Fleming, I'm here today to present you with an amendment to our design build contract with Samet Corporation on August 13th. I presented the contract that included the approval that you made for the design fees of $355,133. Today, this amendment takes the total value of the contract to $8,890,000. And this is for the HVAC upgrade projects across 9 different school sites.
Thank you, Mr. Hook. Questions or comments?
Mr. Hook, and so this change from on this is basically based off of what information they found out through that design process and everything, correct?
Yes, it is. We gave an initial budget number for the guaranteed maximum price, and Samet was aware of that budget number. But in order for them to present the figures for the final contract, they had to go through a design process to make sure they set up their budgets correctly to be able to meet the GMP.
And this is for these various schools that is listed right here, right? That's the scope of the work of it?
Yes, this is at 4 high schools, Graham, Southern, Eastern, and Western. It will replace the rooftop units on buildings A, B, C, and D. We'll remove them from the roofs because the roofing projects will install a low-slope metal roof on those buildings. And so each of those sites that I named, the rooftop units are 30 years old plus, and they need to be replaced. Then this also includes a boiler and piping and controls at Hall River. And then at 4 different sites, B. Everett Jordan and Alexander Wilson, Smith, and Hillcrest, a chiller piping that's needed and control systems there.
Dr. Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Hook.
So I ask this every time, but so the next step after we approve this is it goes back to the commissioners, or do you present this at the capital meeting, or kind of what is next? After
No, not for this one. If you vote and approve this, which is what I want you to do, then Samet's going to go to work.
Fantastic. And these are, have not to exceed clauses or a maximum fixed price? As far
Yes,
as the-
it's designed by design-build project, has a guaranteed maximum price. That means it's not to exceed the $8,990,000 figure.
Great, thank you.
Motion for approval, Madam Chair.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the contract as presented. Any further conversation? Can you just, this is capital reserve funding, correct?
Well, it's
Or the bond premium?
It's actually $8,708,665 of bond funds and $181,335 of capital reserves. Where that capital reserve figure comes from is in the beginning, before we worked with the county on their roof and HVAC capital improvement study. I had gone to them and requested to use the remaining roof funds and some remaining roofing funds from Hall River and some additional capital reserves, that $181,000, to begin HVAC design and replacement at Graham High School. But once they did their capital improvement plan for HVAC and allocated the other amount of funds, of bond funds, to the HVAC projects, it was best for us and most expeditious, and this leads back to the presentations that I made in June and July regarding the construction decisions and different ways to go about construction. The quickest way to drive it through was to combine the $181,000 of capital reserves with the $8.7 million bond to make it one design-build project.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other questions? Hearing none, there's a motion and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe at this time, Ms. Westbrooks has a motion for us.
I make a motion, we enter closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318, 11A3, to preserve attorney-client privilege, North Carolina General Statutes 143-318, 11A6, to consider confidential personnel information protected under North Carolina General Statutes 115C-319 and 115C-321, North Carolina General Statutes 143-318, 11A8, to formulate plans by a local board of education relating to emergency response to incidents of school violence, or to formulate and adopt the school safety components of school improvement plans by a local board of education or a school improvement team, and North Carolina General Statutes 143-318, 11A5, to establish or to instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating, 1, the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease, or 2, the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrooks. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. We will move into closed session at this time. We are back in open session. At this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to Attorney Adam Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify on the record that there was no discussion in closed session regarding any real estate sale, acquisition, transfer, or purchase. The law does allow closed session conversations regarding the acquisition or purchase of real estate. Certain information needs to be provided in closed session before the in open session before the closed session. There was no discussion. There is no pending acquisition of real estate that's on the table for ABSS. And so I just wanted to make that clear that it was not discussed in closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. And as the realtor on this board, I had nothing to do with any of that. So I just want to clarify that for the public. At this time, I would like to invite Ms. Anderson to the podium for our personnel report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Fleming. I'm asking that you approve the personnel report as presented in closed session.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
Thank you,
Second.
Dr. Parker. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. Thank you. And before we adjourn, I believe Dr. Parker would like to share some good news with the board.
Well, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware, and parents, you should have gotten this in the peach jar flyer, that there's a Google Meet about the ABSS Science Fair on October 16th at 5 p.m. And of course, I always want to see more people participate, and just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of it, that Ms. Bauer and Brooks do a great job and would be there to answer questions you have about how things work, and would certainly encourage all interested students to submit something for it. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Is there any other business or good news before the board this afternoon?
Well, I did want to shout out the high school options fair because I got to drop in there for a little while, walk around to a bunch of the tables, and to see the families that was out and everything. And I even convinced my nephew to get up early on a Saturday morning to go out there and check it out himself. So, but yeah, the high school options fair was a great crowd out there. Great to see all of the folks out there, and gave me a chance to even talk to a couple of our students who was actually working the tables for certain programs, and getting them to explain out the programs that they're in was great.
Thank you for sharing, Mr. Rogers. Anything else? Hearing nothing, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrooks. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. We are adjourned.